Aziza rested for a bit to catch her breath after the swamp's nightmare. Her clothes were torn and covered in mud and yucky swamp water. The spirit fur was messy too, but she held on tight to it. It had already protected her from so many creepy jungle monsters. Looking up at the tall rocky cliffs, Aziza felt a little scared knot in her stomach. But she remembered why she was here, to find the source of the cursed river and break the evil spell trapping her son Kemari's spirit. Taking a deep breath, she got up and started climbing. It was a really hard climb, especially after everything she'd been through in the jungle already. Loose rocks tumbled down as she pulled herself higher, cutting her hands. The hot sun beating down made her dizzy. She had to stop a few times to drink some water and rest. After what felt like forever, Aziza finally pulled herself over the top ridge. She gasped at the sight in front of her, a massive lake, perfectly still and round, stretching as far as she could see. The cliffs formed a giant bowl all around the black, glassy waters. This had to be the cursed river's source. Suddenly, Aziza felt the hairs on her neck stand up. A strange energy tingled through the air. She looked around carefully. The cliff walls were covered in cave openings and shadowy cracks. She couldn't shake the feeling that something, or some things, were watching her from the darkness. Taking a few careful steps forward, Aziza looked down at the glassy lake. Its inky surface was so still she couldn't even see a hint of movement beneath. Yet she sensed something sinister and powerful resting in those black depths. Then, without warning, the lake waters violently exploded upwards in a tremendous geyser. Aziza stumbled back, shielding her face as the black liquid rained down. When she looked again, the eruption had formed a human-like shape, rising from the center of the lake, rapidly growing taller. Within moments, a gigantic figure towered over Aziza, formed entirely of the cursed lake's inky waters. It loomed dozens of feet high, a featureless black torso splitting into multiple tentacle-like limbs undulating across the surface. The only feature was a pair of piercing red eyes that seemed to glow from within its fluid head. In a deafening voice that shook the cliffs, the lake creature bellowed, "Usus! Foolish human! You dare bring your curses to my home?" Aziza tried not to be afraid, holding up the spirit fur in front of her. "Dread beast, I am Aziza, and I have come to break the curses over this jungle and river, to free my son's trapped spirit." The gigantic sloshing form seemed to consider her for a moment. Then it reared back, its crimson eyes flaring brighter. "Your son was an abomination, conceived from an unholy union. He disrupted the balance and woke my dark slumbers. I will not release him. He must suffer for eternity, trapped between the worlds." A terrifying scream pierced Aziza's mind. It was Kemari's voice, filled with unimaginable pain and desperately pleading for help. His cries echoed from everywhere, overwhelming her senses with his spiritual torment. Tears streamed down Aziza's face as she fell to her knees, clutching at her head. Please, I beg you," she sobbed brokenly. "He is my son. You must let him go." All around, the shadowed caves seemed to come alive with shapes slinking out. Scores of wretched human-like forms, all composed of dense ropes of inky black liquid like the towering beast, emerged and quickly circled Aziza. They shambled and writhed, eyeless faces twisted into leering sneers. The gargantuan beast's echoing voice shook the cliffs again. "You seek to defy the ancient curse that binds this land? Then you will join your son in eternal spiritual torment." It raised two massive tentacle arms as the ringing in Aziza's head intensified. The circling liquid creatures joined their master, slowly merging into a churning black wave that began crashing over her. Aziza wanted to scream, to cry out for mercy, but found herself suddenly mute, paralyzed with fear. The dark tsunami swallowed her whole. Her lungs burned as the murky waters filled her mouth and nose. She couldn't breathe, couldn't move, lost in total inky blackness. Then, like a flickering light through the shadows, Kemari's voice reached her again. This time soft, soothing, encouraging his mother not to give up. "The spirit fur, Mother! Don't let go!" With the last of her fading strength, Aziza clutched the sodden fur clump to her chest. An intense warmth instantly spread from her fingers, pulsing with energy and light from within the tangle of bloody strands. The cursed waters seemed to hiss and recoil from the spirit magic. Holding tight to the blazing fur, Aziza let its power envelop her. The oppressive black ocean fell away, replaced by an incandescent glow that bathed her in purifying light and warmth. All the fear, pain and hopelessness melted from her body, like waking from a nightmare. When the light finally faded, Aziza found herself standing strong and unbowed once more, facing the towering lake beast. It had shrunk, reverting to a tiny liquid form, just barely human-like, clearly weakened and afraid of the spirit fur's magic. "Impudent river demon," Aziza's voice rang out, emboldened and almost otherworldly in its power. "You have corrupted this land and tormented innocent souls for far too long. Your reign of darkness ends now." The small liquid being tried to flee, slithering back towards the lake's still surface. But Aziza simply raised the glowing fur, focusing its blinding white energy into a searing beam of holy light that struck the creature head-on. Its form convulsed as if being purified from the inside out, shrieking in black smoky bursts. At last, silence fell over the cursed lake as the dark spirit dissipated like a waking dream. The waters stilled, their inky blackness fading to a brilliant blue. Shimmering mirrors of light reflected off the surface, banishing all traces of the ancient evil. Aziza bowed her head, clutching the spirit fur close, as she softly repeated the words that had been shown to her. "Flow freely once more, sacred river. Your tainted chains are broken." In that moment, a familiar ghostly figure flickered into view beside the lake. It was Kemari, his translucent form beaming radiantly, finally released from eternal damnation. "You did it, Mother," he exclaimed joyfully. "You broke the wretched curse. I can move on now to the blessed realm where I belong." Aziza rushed forward, trying and failing to embrace her son's spectral body. Tears of relief fell unheeded as she smiled at him with a mother's boundless love. "My precious boy, I don't want you to go. Stay with me." Kemari smiled back sadly but shook his head. "You know I cannot linger in this world any longer. My spirit is finally free to depart, and your part in this realm is not yet done." He motioned towards the sunlight sparkling off the reborn lake surface. "This sacred place has been restored to its former glory, all thanks to your courage and love. A new goddess must take her rightful place as its eternal guardian." Realization slowly dawned in Aziza's eyes. Of course, from the moment they first encountered the river's darkness, some deep part of her had subconsciously awoken to her true divine nature. It was her spiritual essence that had taken form as the spirit fur's power, an innate goddess force, destined to purify the lands. Kemari's voice pulled her back to the present. "You have suffered enough for your divinity, Mother. Say goodbye to me, and accept your immortal role as protector of these waters." Aziza knew he was right. that their bond could never be as it once was. She pulled her son close one last time, drinking in his warmth before it inevitably slipped away. "I love you, Kemari, now and forever. And I you, Mother." Then, like smoke in the wind, Kemari's spirit slowly disappeared into sparkling pieces of light. Aziza watched with tears in her eyes as her son's essence went up towards the sky, finally at peace. Though her heart hurt from his passing, Aziza felt a strong sense of purpose grow inside her. She turned to face the reborn lake, its clean waters shining with new life. Drawing the spirit fur close, she let its divine energies flow through her. In that changing moment, Aziza's human form seemed to dissolve and reshape into something beyond. Her torn clothes and tired looks fell away, replaced by glowing blue skin that sparkled like the lake itself. Her body stretched and flowed into a snake-like shape, powerful coils moving across the cliff's surface. When the change was complete, Aziza had become an amazing water goddess, a huge 60-foot azure serpent with fancy fins and armored scales. She opened her eyes, now bright blue orbs, and saw her reborn home with ancient wisdom. A deep, melodic voice came from her fanged mouth, echoing across the cliffs. "The river's blessing is restored. I will guard forever against corruption and darkness. Let this sacred place always remain where life is reborn." With an almighty surge, the gigantic water serpent arched her scaled neck and plunged into the lake's depths. The waters accepted their new goddess protector, parting to swallow Aziza's snake form in a shimmering vortex. When the surface calmed again, only the curved rear fin remained, circling forever in the lake's center like an iconic sculpture. The cliffs seemed to hum with renewed primal energies, their rock faces already becoming lush with green growth. And high above, faintly visible beyond the veil of the human world, a blazing new constellation had been written across the heavens. It twinkled in the unmistakable shape of a serpent ready to strike, the eternal stellar form of the river goddess, Aziza, ever watchful.